Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Star Wars Stuff Podcast. My name is David.
Oh, and my name is Andrew Roscoe.
So, Andrew has been invited to the podcast 5 or maybe 6 times, and he's declined every single time except for tonight's invitation. So, he's here now. So, yeah, I've been trying to get this guy on the podcast for a while now, and he is finally here. So, Andrew, if you want to introduce yourself.
Yeah, of course, David. Thanks. My name is, I already said Andrew, right? So I am a staff writer for Geek News Now. I usually write about Star Wars and video games. Sometimes those are happen at the same time. I mean, recently with like Eclipse and like other stuff going on over there with Lucas Games and stuff. And I also do a Star Wars podcast of my own with my co-host Abram over on the YouTube channel's Backlog Banter, and then like the actual video playlist is my Star Wars show. Not very creative, but that's what's called. It's my Star Wars show, just 4 words. So that's pretty much what I mostly do on here. And then lastly, I have a video game themed podcast that's about every week called Duo Sense. That's DuoSense. And we just talk about video games and stuff on there. So those are my 3 main hobby passion projects, if you will.
Nice. Very good. And I've seen you do several podcasts, and you're great when you speak about Star Wars. So that's why I wanted to have you on.
Thank you.
And
thank you.
Yeah, no problem. And I also wanted to, before we do anything, is give out some shout outs to our beloved patrons on the purple tier: Chris Simpson, Kevin Leininger, Devin McCaffrey, Drew Peters. On the red tier: Fenrir526, Matt Heath, Maya Morris. On the black tier: Maka Tawatala, Nathan Shank, Evan Opaker, and Liam McCallion. Thank you so much, guys, for contributing to the podcast. This past weekend, not this past weekend, but the weekend before last, we did an interview with Spencer Wilding, and I was able to use equipment to do the interview directly due to the funds contributed via Patreon. So thank you so much. And we're going to take that stuff to London when we go for Celebration, and hopefully we get some nice coverage there, and hopefully some interviews and maybe the panel. So, but without further ado, we want to talk about this past week of Star Wars stuff that dropped, and out of nowhere, seemingly, we got the news a few days ago that we're going to get Rogue One back in theaters. And not only in theaters, it's going to be in IMAX in select locations. What locations, we still do not know. It's been a few days. We don't know, but we're also going to get an Andor exclusive look probably after the film. And hopefully we get this awesome one sheet right here. I know I have the Star Wars Stuff Podcast logo on it, but I hope to get this poster and put it in my house along with every other poster I've gotten from Celebration. It looks like it's probably a 13 by 19, just like the same ones they hand out at Celebration, but getting Rogue One back in a huge screen, that space battle is going to look so sweet again. I never got to see it in IMAX. I know they released it on IMAX. It's now regarded as one of the best Star Wars films. It's probably regarded as the best Disney film after the merger in 2012. So, Andrew, what are your thoughts on Rogue One being dropped into IMAX?
2 things. I want to take liberties with Poe Dameron and say somehow Rogue One has returned. And then second thing, don't let David Gramillion hear you praise Rogue One so much, because my editor, he hates that movie so much. He really does. He complains there's no character development and like it's too scattered. I kind of see like where he's coming from, but I just like it because it's so tonally different from the mainline Star Wars films. I like the war kind of like quiet on the Eastern Front kind of thing going on. Like I love the like none of our heroes make it. And I think most of us knew going into the movie that like no one was there, right? I know some people confused it with like like the Bothans dying, but that was a second Death Star, right? That was a different situation, but like I just love Baze. I love like all the characters we're introduced to, and it's just such a like a heroically tragic ending. And I remember when I saw it in theaters opening night, like the news about Carrie Fisher is so fresh in my mind, and then we see like the kind of it's not the best effects, but we see her like they've given us something It's like, what? It's like hope. It's just like, oh, it just like tears at the heartstrings. So I haven't seen Rogue One's probably the Star Wars film I have seen the least. I've seen Solo probably more times than I've seen Rogue One. So
Interesting.
it's still like I'm ready for it in IMAX. So that's good.
Yeah, it feels like someone could actually do a podcast solely based on that film. There's so many behind the scenes, like just interesting like tidbits, and I mean the whole Tony Gilroy popping in and kind of helping with finishing off Rogue One, and then the fact that Gareth Edwards, traditionally, if someone comes in and kind of takes over a movie, the director leaves, but Gareth Edwards decided to stay and he kind of contributed. And if you're not aware of the story, apparently Gareth Edwards directed it to a point, and then either some of the higher ups, Kathleen Kennedy, said that this wasn't working out, so they brought in Tony Gilroy at like, I don't know, 10th hour, 11th hour possibly, and he came in and he said, this is what you need to do, that's what you need to do. And he, having that knowledge and seeing that film, you can kind of tell that it was kind of Frankenstein a little bit. We always have this discussion on the podcast that Rogue One is not a good film, but it's a great Star Wars film, you know? And I can see where Dave Gramillion comes from his point of view, where it's not the best of movies, but it works as a Star Wars film because it flows right into A New Hope. It establishes some interesting characters.
Connective tissue,
yeah, the connectivity, the connective tissue. It just works. In the technology with Grand Moff Tarkin, that worked to a degree. A lot of people were kind of fooled and thought that Peter Cushing was still alive, surprisingly. that was really interesting to hear.
I thought he looked really plasticky, though. Like, I remember, like, I haven't seen it in a long, like, at least 2 years at this point, but I just remember him looking very, like, plasticky. It's kind of just that uncanny valley kind of look where, like, I almost felt, like, unnerved to look at him. Like, you know what I mean? It's kind of like, don't look too closely, kind of like, you know what I mean? It's just, it's a little unnerving. It's kind of, I don't know. Maybe it'll look better in IMAX. Probably not. I'll probably just exemplify all the technicalities I have issues with, but
yeah, I think it maybe had something to do with the eyes. The eyes are a little bit too glassy or weren't glassy enough. But the other kind of interesting thing that my buddy Carl always brings up, he says that he read or saw an interview where I think the FX team that worked on Tarkin said that they did everything they could possibly do except for one thing they forgot to do. They forgot to do this one crucial thing. What do you think it is?
I'm gonna guess it's something with like maybe like natural hair on the skin, like on the face, like bleach fuzz or something. I don't know.
I think they did that, but you're very, very close.
Like,
what does every actor wear on their face?
Just makeup? Is it makeup?
They didn't put makeup on them.
Okay.
They're claiming that the fact that there was no makeup on Tarkin, that would have made him more believable.
So. Okay, I can see that because he does, like I said, he looks like plasticky, and it's kind of like the shiny, kind of like waxy, like it's like looking at Adam Toussaint's like wax version of Peter Cushing, where I could see that where, like, you know, makeup helps kind of diffuse the light a little bit, kind of like spreads out, so you're not sweaty and shiny looking. So that makes sense. I might just be the gripe that I'm missing then.
Yeah, so I'm going to try really, really hard because this is going to drop on, if you look at the poster, August 26th. Now, it's a little strange in that we don't know which theaters this is going to drop. This is in 2 weeks from now, less than 2 weeks from now, actually. So it's going to be a Friday, August 26th. Don't know which IMAX theaters. Don't know how long the run is going to be. It just says August 26th. Is it only that one day, or is it the whole weekend? I mean, what's going on there? I would think it would be the weekend. At least
a weekend. Yeah. I have a buddy who works at a theater. I wonder if he knows already. Probably not.
Yeah, I did search online to see if there's any new news on this, and I didn't see anything. I figure like Twitter, someplace would have it posted everywhere, but nothing as of yet. I did paste the link for Fandango on our Facebook group to be able to get email alerts, which, I mean, I don't know if you want Fandango to be spamming your email a bunch after this, but we'll let you know for sure on all
Just
of
for the
our
month.
social channels. Yeah, they probably like keep you forever and just send you all kinds of stuff. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And what we're gonna see in this exclusive look at Andor, I'm not quite sure. Hopefully, it's something like James and I are the co-hosts on Patreon Daily podcast we do for Patreon. We were talking about when the Dune premiere happened. I went to that at an IMAX in Austin, and they gave us
That's got to
about
be amazing.
15. Yeah, it was incredible. They might. It feels like they're going to give us like about 15 minutes of the actual show, and then maybe like an introduction from Diego Luna and Tony Gilroy, possibly.
Sort of like a. Have you seen Top Gun Maverick by any chance or no?
I haven't seen it. I bought tickets for it, and I had to cancel twice.
Okay, because like, it's like a little thing where Tom Cruise comes out, like, you know, like a little, like for the first like a minute before the movie, he's like, "Hey guys, thanks for coming out to watch the movie and stuff." So is that what you're talking about, like that kind of thing, like right
Something
before
like that, where they're sitting like in a director's chair and they just kind of talk to the crowd. Yeah,
and the spotlight's just like, okay.
Yeah. So yeah, and of course they moved the premiere date all the way back to September 21st, due to the fact we believe that all these other shows are happening with She-Hulk and Rings of Power and House of Dragons, and you don't want to have that overlap. And still, we don't know. We haven't had any word when Bad Batch season 2 is going to premiere, because that was always set for September 28th.
Mm-hmm.
So are we going to get, for the first time ever, 2 Star Wars concurrent shows happening? I know it's animation, but I mean, there's a lot of fans for Bad Batch. I went to Celebration. I was at the panel. Huge cheers for the trailer, and the stadium was full. So what do you think?
I don't know. I here's the thing, is like, I was thinking about this recently, where like Disney Plus, they had the thing where it was Obi-Wan, right? For Kenobi came out, and then like I think 2 or 3 weeks later Marvel came out. And the thing they noticed was that Miss Marvel had like the lowest like first day viewings, because it was coming out the same day as the Kenobi episodes were. And so I think as soon as Kenobi ended, there was like maybe 2 or 3 episodes of Marvel left, and like those numbers shot up for those first days for those premieres. So I'm wondering if they might have learned their lesson here with that. If are they gonna, because it just seems, it doesn't seem like very wise going at the same time, even if they had like different like days, like if you drop one on a Wednesday, another one on a Friday or something. It just, I don't know, it doesn't seem smart business wise, but I mean, it's Star Wars, so they probably figured maybe people will just double dip anyways.
Yeah, it's like common sense, business sense. Don't repeat the mistakes that you made in the short history of Disney owning Star Wars. Because if you go all the way back to Solo, they dropped Solo next to Infinity War and Deadpool 2, and it's like, man, it's like people don't have a lot of money to go and see 3 films at the theater that close together. And I think that was a big hit. And then on top of that, you had the Last Jedi backlash. It was just an imperfect storm.
And then people also talk about how like they weren't that enthusiastic about it because of I forget their names, the guys who did Into the Spider-Verse, that were originally attached to
Lord and Miller.
There you go. Yeah, they were originally attached to Solo, and I guess it was like a comedy or something, and like Kathleen and the crew just took issue with it, and they kind of like scrapped and Ron Howard brought in, kind of had to like rework stuff. And it just, I remember the press of that movie coming out, and it was just kind of like, I don't think any of my friends, like when it came out, I think that was like the only Star Wars movie where my friends like did not go see it opening weekend. And so like when that happened, I'm like, this movie's in trouble a little bit.
Yeah, and they moved away from the Christmas release date too, and that was another thing where it's like, you already planted your flag for Christmas starting in 2015 with The Force Awakens, and then they released Rogue One, and then they went to May. It really made no sense. It really speaks to the executives and the shareholders thinking that Star Wars was Teflon. There was nothing that was going to make them just break even, which is essentially what Solo did. But of course, they learned, and now we're kind of to the point where it's like, should we even? I mean, this shouldn't be a thing that should be happening. You shouldn't have two concurrent running Star Wars things. Although it is animation and it is streaming, so it's a different kind of beast. But I mean, the kind of the track record that we have now, it's like, yeah, you don't want to run two programs simultaneously, because like you said, Miss Marvel is a good show. It's one of the better Marvel shows.
I think it's one of the better
And
top half of the Disney Plus era Marvel shows.
yeah, and it totally deserves more viewership. And it suffered because Kenobi was happening, and then on top of that, Stranger Things was happening, and then on top of that, Top Gun was released. So all those like dominoes. I mean, it's just one of those things. I mean, yeah, hindsight is 2020, but it's like, just don't make that mistake again. It feels like, but I don't know. So talking about Disney Plus here. So August 10th, I think the news dropped. That was my birthday, and I wasn't really paying much attention to that to that side of the business as far as Disney Plus and finance. This, I don't think a lot of people are actually talking about this. This is actually kind of big news, and I wanted to read this article here off of Variety. There's going to be a price hike for Disney Plus. They're going to raise the price by 38%. So it's essentially going to jump from $7.99 to $10.99 if you want Disney Plus Premium. So there's going to be a difference. There's going to be Disney Plus Basic, and there's going to be Disney Plus Premium. And I'll read to you the details here. So this is from Variety. Disney has set pricing and date for the U.S. launch of the version of Disney Plus with ads, while also hiking the monthly price of the Disney Plus tier with no ads. It's also going to raise rates for Hulu, both ad-supported and ad-free versions, and introduce new Disney bundle options. Disney Plus Basic, which is the name of the plan with ads, will launch December 8th in the U.S. for $7.99 a month. That's the price of the current ad-free version of Disney Plus, which at the time will bump up to $10.99 per month, a 38% increase, and will be known as Disney Plus Premium. So did that make sense there?
A little bit. Like I was kind of like, it's like the meme with the numbers and stuff kind of coming at me, and I'm just like, I hate when they do that. Like Hulu has that where like you're paying but you still get ads. I just go to like next year because I'm like, if I'm paying and I'm still getting ads, like this is like a lose-lose situation. I might as well just put the extra 2 or 3 or whatever it is to not get ads at that point. So
yeah, I was kind of shocked because my wife, she loves Hulu, and she usually doesn't want to pay the premium, but she's like, yeah, I don't want to get ads in my Hulu stuff. So I'm like, great. I don't want ads either, whatever I watch on Hulu.
Mm-hmm.
So I always thought that the price point for Disney Plus was really, really low. When it first initially dropped, it was only $6.99 per month. And then they did that huge 3-year bundle.
The lock-in.
Yeah. And that's about to go. That's about to be up. I think this November, it's done for those people. So I'm not sure if you can re-up or what exactly is going to happen for them. I bought the yearly subscription, and I just recently bought the bundle with Hulu and ESPN Plus. So I guess my rate is going to go up too with that. But you do get a cheaper price when you bundle everything, of course. Right. So, but like I was saying, I thought the price point was actually pretty cheap for everything you're getting. You're getting everything Marvel, essentially excluding the Spider-Man films and whatever old contracts they had. I believe they said starting with Captain Marvel on, every single Marvel film would go straight to Disney Plus, which I think they've kept that promise. So I've checked out all the Marvel films there. And of course, you have Pixar there. You have Disney Animation, National Geographic. But they're releasing more and more content. We're getting more Star Wars shows. We've talked about how the trailer for The Mandalorian Season 3 looks like they've stepped their game up. You can see a lot more money on screen. And by all accounts, it's going to be even more epic than Season 2. I think season two's first episode felt almost like a mini movie with the crate dragon, and it felt movie quality. And hopefully, with the future story that we're about to talk about, hopefully it's going to get to the point where it's going to be kind of indistinguishable from watching a movie on the big screen. But
yeah, it's funny thing you mentioned that as my co-host on my Star Wars show podcast, my co-host Abram has talked about we did like a hot takes episode, like a Star Wars hot takes episode, and he's like, we should just not do movies anymore, just put everything on Disney Plus, just do everything as a series. And I was like, no, you need like that theatrical, like cinematic experience. Because like we're at the point where like a decade ago, like of course we would have to have done movies, but he's like with the volume and like everything that's going on with how like the technology is caught up, kind of like. He's like, there's no reason why you can't just do Star Wars stories. It's just like a episodic format at this point. And like, I get it. I kind of get it. And at the same time, I'm kind of like, no, there's something special about those numbered entries, man. Like you can't, it's just something about it, but I don't know. I guess you're kind of like in the same boat sort of, right? Where like, not that you don't want Star Wars movies, but like you feel like the Disney Plus stuff is just enough, like quality wise.
Yeah, it's very interesting that you say that, because it felt like Obi-Wan Kenobi, the show, the series, the limited series. It was kind of downplayed, and it didn't seem like they had the budget like the new Andor series has. The new Andor series seems like that is a movie that we're gonna get on Disney Plus.
Not with the volume and everything.
Yeah, it seemed like they didn't utilize the volume as well as the Mandalorian production did. The Mandalorian production seemed a lot more epic in scale. Obi-Wan seemed smaller than what I think all of us feel it should have. So, but as far as the price hike for Disney Plus, I want to pose this question to everyone watching on YouTube and Twitter. If you can comment, what is the max price you would pay for Disney Plus, knowing that you'll get all the Marvel films, all the Disney Plus shows, and eventually the Star Wars films on Disney Plus? What is the max? And me personally, I thought about this today. And aside from me having a Star Wars podcast and having to subscribe, if I was just a standard Star Wars fan, man, I would say I wouldn't pay more than I would pay for something like a Netflix. I know Netflix is maybe $21 if you have 4K.
Oh, I think I pay like 13.
I think that's
13 or something. I think I paid 13 for like 2 screens and HD or something. I think.
I think it's about $21 for 3 screens, 4K, which was kind of annoying when I got a 4K TV. They're like, yeah, you need to.
Is there enough stuff on there?
Anything in 4K?
Is there enough stuff on there that supports 4K?
Yeah, I think there's a few things.
Oh, okay.
So, so yeah, I think Liz F is saying my life savings. Yeah, I wouldn't go that far, but I mean, I was always shocked. Like I've said, that the price point was so small. $6.99, but then of course the gradual price hike, and I was thinking, oh my gosh, they're going to topple Netflix in no time. But the subscriptions for Disney Plus hasn't grown as quickly as I thought it was. They do have a lot of subscribers, nowhere near what Netflix has, but of course Netflix has got that. They got so many years on them, in a much larger library of stuff.
Well, Netflix is also like, every now and then we hear like every month or so, like, oh, like they're hemorrhaging like or something. So like, I think you have growing pains all around with people kind of being like, because I think most people, I'm just speaking for myself, but like I see like I subscribe to Hulu just to watch Prey just for this month. And then like people are telling me, oh, you got to watch Severance on Apple. And I'm like, dude, like I can't do this Paramount, this Hulu, this Netflix, this Disney Plus. Like I can't. I have Crunchyroll too. I can't. It's just too much. So like,
yeah, it is a lot.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, it's gotten to the point where we all cut the cord for cable, and now it's like we're back on it because we're paying just as much now. Yeah, it all came back around. But I mean, it's nicer to have that kind of granularity and a la carte type of option to cut off stuff when you don't want it.
Yeah, it's
And
you're doing like the packages, like the cable when they offer you like the this many channels, right, for like this amount. It's kind of like that.
yeah, definitely.
And
So
what's funny, David, is I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. What were you saying? Go ahead.
yeah, I was gonna ask, what were you gonna say? What are you thinking? What's the max price you would pay for Disney Plus?
Okay, that's what I was
A
about to
month?
say anyway. So that works
Okay.
out. I would be good at I think about no more than 12. I think I'll be fine.
No more than 12.
No more than
Wow.
12. And then the funny thing is like, okay, I'll let you guess. What do you think is the thing I most binge watch on Disney Plus? And you're probably not going to get it correctly. Go ahead.
On Disney Plus.
Yeah. Long running series.
Oh, a long running series. Is it something new that dropped on Disney Plus?
No.
A long running series on Disney Plus.
All right, I'll just go ahead and tell you then. I basically just watch The Simpsons like almost all the time. Like,
okay.
The Simpsons for me is like comfort viewing, like kind of like what The Office used to be for me before they took it off Netflix. Where it's just I kind of have it on in the background, or like if I want to watch something before bed and I don't feel like being invested like a lot, like I just kind of just want, I mean, like it's just like popcorn viewing. Okay. And so like I'm thinking of like, because you're thinking of Marvel and Star Wars, I'm thinking of Marvel, Star Wars, and The Simpsons for me, because like that show's like 30 plus seasons. I'm like, I knew it. it's feel good TV. It's popcorn viewing. It's just kind of just cultural, just but like I think the whole Fox merger thing that they did like has been like very beneficial, because I know some people who, I have a friend who also is like kind of just like me. He just he'll pop in for the occasional Mandalorian premiere, Kenobi premiere, but he really just stays on for like the other like non-important stuff. Like I'm talking about like the that Mighty Ducks revival they did, like the other kind of stuff that's like more on the fringes, like on the edges, really, because like I know most people are kind of just like when's the next Marvel show, when's the next Star Wars thing, and then like the rest of us are kind of just like, we're subsisting on the kind of the little pieces here and there and stuff. So I think $12 for me is like that covers everything that I kind of want. So I think $12. If it goes above $12, I'll still get it, but I'll just be griping more, gnashing my teeth. But $12 is like where like that's where I'm still moderately happy.
Okay, interesting. So if 12 is the max for you, would you just constantly keep Disney Plus? Would you not cancel it? Or are you saying that if it goes above 12, you would just get it for like the occasional new Star Wars show or whatever you're interested in and just start canceling?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, though, like we're at the point where like we have She-Hulk coming out this month, and then we have like he's Andor and everything. So there's always something there like every month to kind of keep you on the hook just a little bit longer. So I think I would just always have Disney Plus, but I'm saying like above $12, I would just come like a little more, really. I think as long as it can keep it on, as long as it can keep us like on the hook with something every single month, I think they'll do fine.
Okay. Interesting.
What about you?
Yeah, we got the head honcho here, Bob Chapek. He's waiting on the general public to see what they're going to do here, because we all know that Netflix, when they raised prices, they lost about 200,000 subscribers off the bat. So that apparently what insiders are thinking, they're thinking that the ad subscription is going to prevent losing subscribers, but I don't know. I would think Disney Plus by now would have more of a foothold, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. And looks like December 8th will be the date where the experiment happens. So I guess we got that to look forward to. So the other thing that I wanted to talk about here is the fact that Tony Gilroy. And I know I've said this so many times on the podcast, but when we were at Celebration, he was on stage during the Lucasfilm Plus panel. He was so hyped up and happy to talk about Andor, which is the polar opposite of what we all thought about him, because the initial reports when Tony Gilroy came in to help out with Rogue One was that he said he was not a Star Wars fan. And he kind of gave off the vibe of he didn't care about Star Wars. He just simply wasn't a fan. He's primarily a fan of just espionage films and just making cinema, and he didn't care about the whole Star Wars aspect. But his demeanor totally changed on set, and there are reports that Lucasfilm said you could do whatever you need to do whatever you want with Andor, and just do something good. And I have seen articles out there that he has actually gone through Star Wars lore, and he's actually watched Star Wars Rebels to do research to figure out how to create Andor and what possibly connective tissue, maybe some characters from Rebels. Possibly, I know there's lots of reports stating that Rebels characters will appear maybe in the Ahsoka series or in Mandalorian season 3. But wouldn't it be super exciting to get them in the Andor show somehow, some way? Of course, we all know we saw the Ghost, the ship, in Rogue One, so they are kind of around. So I think that'd be interesting. What do you think? Do you think getting more connected to, even though we do have some reports stating that there's not a lot of Easter eggs, which could be totally wrong, which could be throwing a curveball at us, but do you think Andor is going to have characters that we're familiar with, or are we just going to get a straight up brand new story, brand new characters, and just the beginning of the rebellion?
I'm of two minds, David, because I'm one of those people who, like, I love when, like, for example, like Kenobi has a connective tissue for Revenge of the Sith. Like, if you watch Revenge of the Sith, Kenobi, and A New Hope, like, it kind of just all flows into each other. At the same time, I do think Star Wars does suffer from the what they call a small galaxy syndrome, where it's like we always see everybody, like there always has to be cameos, there always has to be people. Like, we can't just have like an isolated like story to tell, right? I think that's why they refuse to go like too far in the past with like High Republic or Old Republic stuff, and they refuse to go too far in the future with like anything post Rise of Skywalker, right? So I think we were like in this holding pattern where we're between like the prequels and like the sequels, and everything's just kind of lodged into that little gap area. So I think we're likely to see I'm sure we're going to see past characters, right? I mean, besides Mon Mothma and like some of the other ones they've shown, I feel like they might pull like a Chrysanthemum kind of thing and just like throw somebody in there who's like maybe from the fringes of like the new EU kind of thing. Like, that would be pretty cool. I think they have a couple of I haven't caught up with all the comics, but I think there's like a couple characters who would like occupy this time frame between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope. They could probably like slip in there. I would love to see someone like what's her name, Dr. Afra or something. That would be awesome. But like, I imagine we're gonna see people who we expect, and we're gonna see at least maybe one or two people who we probably wouldn't expect.
Yeah, I agree with that. I can totally see the Andor show going that way. And like we've said many times on the podcast, it seems like Lucasfilm had a lot of faith in Tony Gilroy and the production of Andor and allowing them to film on location. They didn't use the volume whatsoever. So it's one of those things, like when I was growing up, I loved CGI. When Jurassic Park hit, I said, throw the puppets away. Let's do CGI. But then it's come back around for me, and it's like, I love the puppets. That feels like Star Wars. We need more puppets. We need more practical. And I think all the fans kind of had that kind of same reasoning and agreement right before the sequel trilogy came out. And when the volume hit with the Mandalorian, I was like, yes, do the volume. You don't have to go on location. Just do volume, stagecraft. And now it's kind of like you see Andor, and it's like they didn't use the volume whatsoever.
Like,
they basically created a long form film. And that's what I think we've all been kind of like really thirsting for on Disney Plus for Star Wars. It's like we want those long form films where you can concentrate on character development and story. And man, it feels like Andor is just waiting in the wings here. It's just gonna explode, and it's gonna be terrific. I'm hoping. But yeah,
Hopefully, no more Tatooine for once.
I don't mind Tatooine. Tatooine, I mean, that's quintessential Star Wars. Doesn't bug me at all. If you've read or listened to a certain point of view, you find out that there's all kinds of like stuff that's buried in the sands of Tatooine from previous wars and battles. And Tatooine used to be like a lush planet with oceans and forests. And I mean, there's a lot of stuff you can do with Tatooine. I don't mind it. I know some of our hosts don't like it on the podcast, but
it's just it just feels so limiting though. I think with like when I think of Star Wars, I think of like endless possibilities. And it's the same locations, Dave. It's the same location. So I want to get away from that. It seems like Andor so far in trailers doesn't seem to show any of that. So I'm like, okay, we're at a good start. Good start.
Yeah, good start. And of course, Chris, he's brought up Borg Gullet should make an appearance in that. And James and I were actually talking about that on Patreon Daily. What if Borg Gullet's like a little like octopi that can fit in your hand? You know, he's like an infant in Andor. Saw Gerrera brings him. He's like in his pocket or something. So, yeah.
I want to be honest here. I don't remember who this character is.
So remember in Rogue One when Bodhi Rook was captured, they're trying to make sure that he wasn't lying to the
oh, okay.
Yeah, and that tentacled creature comes out. That's Borg Gullet. That's the name of the creature. Okay. And it was kind of an insert, like a running joke on the podcast way back when Rogue One came out, and you should just like shout out randomly Borg Gullet. So that's what Chris is referring to. So
I saw a comment with the same thing I said about like the more desert, right? I think I saw that. Right?
Yeah. Which it doesn't bug me, but I know that like you say, I mean, we expect endless ideas, possibilities for Star Wars, and it seems like we're kind of trapped, so to speak, in between the worlds we know and Tatooine. And that's why we all kind of want like the Rian Johnson and Taika Waititi stuff to happen so bad, because it's supposed to be brand new worlds, brand new characters. But of course, that's kind of been pushed back a little bit. So
just real quick, I know a lot of people like kind of like rag on Rise of Skywalker, and like that's a whole kind of worm. We're trying to get into that right now, but I just love that sequence in the beginning when they're doing the lightsaber jumping, and you get like these little snippets of all these different worlds, like all these different like biomes and such. And I'm like, oh, that is so cool. Just introducing that into like the mythos of Star Wars. And it's like, I want to see like some of those places like in the future like expanded on, like just like it kind of reminded me of the Star Tours, right, at Disneyland, where like you're kind of like jumping from place to place. And I'm like, oh, like I want to see more of that, like just more time to kind of just like linger in those places. So that's where I'm at kind of with Star Wars.
Yeah. And I did want to touch on Tony Gilroy and this article from Star Wars News Net. So if you're watching us on YouTube or on Twitter, that's a picture of the composer for Andor. And his name is Nicholas Britell. He scored Moonlight and Succession, I believe, on HBO.
Oh, okay.
And Tony Gilroy had a few comments. I'll read his quotes here. Music in Star Wars is just absolutely essential, identified with John Williams. I mean, bow down. But we're going in a whole other direction. We needed an entirely new vocabulary. We're making a new visual vocabulary, a storytelling vocabulary, a new casting vocabulary, all these things. We're going to make a new musical vocabulary. Nick Britell was not only available, but interested. Nick is just one of the premier composers of the moment right now. He's just on fire, and he's inspired. He also said, we both underestimated the amount of work it was going to take. All of a sudden, it turns into this gigantic thing. But it's been one of the great creative experiences I've ever had. That's Gilroy talking about helping watching Nick compose a score. Gilroy said, one day I went to Nick's house and he played us the theme and was like, oh my God, that's our theme. I called Kathy Kennedy to say we have a theme. None of the opening sequences are the same, and each variation is a different orchestration, a completely different interpretation of our theme that Nick has done. There'll be 12 of them in the show. I'm sure people will parse them out and figure them out, what he's done. I think they're just absolutely beautiful. So there you go, a brand new opening theme for every show this year.
So
What do you think about that?
that's cool. I love the music of Star Wars. Like I've really quickly become a fan of Ludwig Göransson, like the him doing Mandalorian and Boba Fett. Like I love the use of like those heavy horns and like the very bombastic kind of feel to it. And like if you've seen Creed 1 or Creed 2, he also does the score for those movies, which I absolutely love his rendition of the Rocky theme with like heavy horns and such. So I was hoping, I guess maybe he was available, or maybe they just want to like mix it up a bit. So I'm looking forward to a different kind of themes. I know for some people, like I think you were. I think you were in the comment section, David, when we were watching the Cantina Happy Hour to talk about all the music, right? Like no one remembered the Book of Boba Fett thing. And I'm like, how dare you? How do you not remember that thing? Like it's like again, like Goranson has like these heavy horns and just like very epic Star Wars feeling. So I haven't seen Severance. I haven't seen what was the other project he did with this guy?
Moonlight.
Oh, I did see Moon Knight, but I don't remember much of the music of Moon Knight. So
no, Moonlight.
Oh, Moonlight,
the Academy Award-winning film. Yes.
Oh, with like the gay that grows up into a teen and adult. Okay, I haven't seen that movie, so I have no like reference.
Yeah, I haven't seen that film either. Yeah, I don't. So. But I've heard the name before. He is a name. So, and from all accounts, Tony Gilroy says he did a great job, and I trust Tony Gilroy. So yeah, I mean, more hype for Andor. It comes out September 21st with a 3-episode premiere. And the last episode will be the week of Thanksgiving in the States. So that should be a lot of fun. And like you said earlier, She-Hulk is also going to run concurrently, I believe, a little bit with Andor, but it's not going to air on the same Wednesday. It's going to air on a Thursday. So at one point in time, I think we're going to have something like Andor, She-Hulk, House of Dragons, and then Rings of Power all in 1 week airing.
That's a good time. It's a good time for nerds around the world, man.
Man, it's gonna be some late nights. So
I never took it for granted, like that we have like this kind of like content. Like as a kid, like if you had told me there'd be like Star Wars shows, like I was like, no, never. That would never happen. And now like I feel almost like spoiled because like we still have like the room to kind of gripe about like certain programs, like like this didn't work out, or like they didn't do this right, or like slow mo pace throughout Tatooine, like stuff like that, right? Like we're like kind of griping. It's like I try to like just think about it, like don't take this for granted. That we get like all this cool stuff.
Born too soon, man. Born too soon. When I was a kid in the 90s, I mean, we had cable, and I was into a lot of things. I was into sports, but I mean, there's just not enough things to watch on cable. And now with streaming, it's like unlimited, I mean, there's
no time now.
Yeah, now there's no time as an adult. I mean, we're like working, we have jobs, we have to adult. And yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things. You really have to carve out time that you don't have to now watch the things that we love. It's a weird turn of events. And that's the way it is. And these kids nowadays, they are lucky. They have no right to complain about anything. Then, of course, it's like an exponential growth of like technology with the internet and Xbox and PlayStation, and you can play online with your friends anywhere in the world. And yeah, it's just one of those things. I'm like old man complaining over here. But yeah, the other thing I want to talk about is the fact that the story dropped. There's a rumor, and it's a little bit substantiated, that the Mandalorian season 4, not season 3, season 4, is going to be shot next month. And the thing that's surprising about that is the fact that all of the industry insiders thought that wasn't going to take place until next year. But then, of course, you have that location at Manhattan Beach right now, where I believe Ahsoka just wrapped, and there's that rumor of Book of Boba Fett season 2 happening. But there was something that was listed, and I'll bring up the story right now, and this comes to us way of bestmanbulletin.com. So they say the latest issue of Production Weekly says the 4th season of the Disney Plus mega hit is set to film next month. And it says if the listing is true, then it lines up with the filming starting on season 3 of last year. The Mandalorian season 3 began filming at Manhattan Beach Studios in late September 2021, with filming running until late March of this year. Pickups and partial reshoots also took place during that time, and planned additional reshoots occurred this summer of the season also. If season 4 begins filming this September, I assume we should not expect the season to wrap until March 2023. However, if principal photography on season 4 is imminent, I wouldn't expect the season until 2024, given the Mandalorian season 3 is slated to release in February, and multiple Star Wars series are slated to follow, including Ahsoka, Skeleton Crew, and The Acolyte. Ahsoka began filming at the start of May, and Skeleton Crew began filming in late June, with both productions primarily filming at Manhattan Beach Studios. Ahsoka is slated to conclude filming in November, with Skeleton Crew following in December. So if you do the math, they could actually take Bad Batch season 2, and I believe there's about 12 to 16 episodes of that. Put that at the end of Andor concluding, maybe give us a week after Thanksgiving, and we can run up Bad Batch right up to Mandalorian season 3. And then once the Mandalorian season 3 concludes, you could start the Ahsoka series. So
they got us on the hook every month.
Exactly what you're saying, right on the hook. So, I mean, they could work it that way. It's possible. They can do it. Put my business hat on, my executive hat. That's what I would do. I would for sure do that. Make sure there's no wait time. Maybe a little, maybe like a week or so. Maybe like I was saying, that holiday, and maybe, and then of course we still have Tales of the Jedi, and we don't have a date for that yet. So you still have that series, which debuted its first episode at Celebration, which shockingly hasn't ended up online in its entirety. But James, one of our co-hosts, he went to that panel and he saw it and he said it was fantastic. And there's spoilers in that as well. So, yeah.
I'm trying to think if they're filming season 4 Mandalorian, because I don't know if they already wrapped up on The Last of Us. That's what Pedro Pascal is attached to.
That was wrapped up a while back.
Was it really?
The beauty of The Mandalorian is you don't need Pedro Pascal on set.
That's true.
All you need is his voice.
A stand-in. Yeah, that's true. I like to show up. I like seeing him in the suit and like on there. So, but yeah, you're right. I guess you don't need him like on there like 24/7 or whatever. So, makes sense.
Yeah, I'm thinking about that trailer that dropped at Celebration. I mean, it was one of the most incredible panels that I've ever attended, as far as seeing new content and to seeing how dynamic it was in outer space, and them, rightfully so, giving the Mandalorian more budget, it seems like, and having the Mandalorian experience there at Celebration, which was totally awesome. I took some video. I took pictures of everything I possibly could. They basically had every single prop and costume at Celebration. And we found out later on that, I'm not sure if Lucasfilm or Disney didn't want to do it, but they didn't pay to move everything from Manhattan Beach Studios to, or wherever they were kind of archiving everything. Jon Favreau actually paid for all that to happen. And he was,
that's pretty cool.
Favreau, yeah, that was really awesome of him. And he was actually walking around the exhibit with a mask on. And if I would have known he was there initially, I would have gone like straight there. But of course, with the podcast, we had like other like scheduling and plans and stuff. But I was able to make it in like really, really late on the last day, and was able to see everything, and it was incredible. Seeing that N1 Starfighter kind of kind of souped up by Pelimoto and Din Djarin, and to have Grogu like waving at you. So apparently they said they had people operating the bantha, and they had people operating Grogu in the little bubble in the M1 Starfighter. So he would turn to actual people and do the wave, and like turn to other people that were there and wave at them. So
that's cute.
yeah. I mean, just the prospects of what the Mandalorian season 3 has in store for us. So the superhero car show and Comic-Con happened in my neck of the woods in San Antonio, and Giancarlo Esposito was there. He did a few, I think he did one panel, but he did address the Mandalorian season 3, which he had already shot. And funny enough, he was interviewed back in May, and he told the interviewer Mandalorian season 3 was going to drop next month. And of course, yeah, there was no way that was going to happen. But he did say at that panel in San Antonio that the Mandalorian season 3 is fire. And then like everyone cheered, and then he stopped talking about it, and then he started talking about his prospects with the Marvel universe. But
it reminds me of Rosario Dawson saying like Punisher was coming back, right? And then, and then later on, she's like, oh, I heard it like secondhand. Like, you can't trust everything secondhand. Like, my bad, or whatever. So it's like same thing. Like, where they hear stuff, and like not everything's like set in stone. Plans change and stuff. So
yeah, that's true. And C2E2 in Chicago was happening simultaneously as a superhero car show in Comic-Con in San Antonio. And Rosario Dawson did talk about that fact that on the set of Ahsoka, Filoni was watching an episode and came out of the tent or whatever and was glassy-eyed and just told Rosario Dawson, he's like, I just had a religious experience watching what he just watched on screen with Ahsoka.
Wow.
Which, to me, that screams something that he's had cooking in his mind for years, maybe decades, to do.
Like he probably like pulled it off and everything. Okay.
Yeah, I'm thinking something incredible. And there's been some speculation on the podcast that possibly, well, if you look at the logo, which is like on my shirt right here,
it looks like the thing the Cal has like that, where like it kind of reminds me, right, like that thing where it played Fallen Order, like when you like do the level up thing or whatever, like it has like those little like the kind of not hieroglyphics, but it has like that light kind of thing. But go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So yeah, so when you look at the logo, I think they're referencing the world between worlds, those like portals.
Oh, okay.
So that's when time travel essentially was introduced in Star Wars. So maybe we'll get that in live action. And I mean, you would assume, it's all in the logo. I mean, there's going to be something involving that. And we were kind of theorizing, what if they actually bring in elements from the original trilogy and the prequels, and we get to see different viewpoints of those certain classic Star Wars moments. And what if Ahsoka actually intervened some way, somehow, into some of those moments? I don't know. That's maybe something that would make Filoni kind of glassy-eyed, that he kind of went back in time, so to speak, into one of his beloved Star Wars moments, and got to actually work in those sets, in a manner of speaking. So
I can see that happening.
Yeah,
just because I remember, I don't know if you ever read the old EU, like there was like a force ability where you can kind of like observe past events also. So I could see that happening.
Yeah, there's all kinds of force abilities that are interesting, and I think that Lucasfilm is taking into consideration all the new creators that come in. I mean, we still have the story group, and I think Pablo Hidalgo and Leland Chi and all those people that are working and making sure everything stays in canon, bring up some suggestions. And I think it was Ryan Johnson who was being challenged online on Twitter or something. When Luke did the Force projection, people were saying that that's not canon. That's not something that can happen. And he pulled out one of the old Jedi power books, and he like read it like word for word. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that they can do. Like you said, the possibilities are limitless. What you can do with Star Wars, it's just getting that green light from the executives, from Kathleen Kennedy, from Dave Filoni now that he's an executive, and Doug Chang as well. He's the vice president of Lucasfilm. So, but I think the end all be all is Kathleen Kennedy. She's the one that green lights everything and gives the final, okay, let's do this. And thankfully, she gave the okay to John Knoll to do Rogue One, and that piece of the A New Hope crawl was that one line was made into a complete movie in Rogue One, which is one of the most beloved films. So, yeah, hopefully we get to see it in IMAX, and hopefully we get some details, and hopefully I'm holding up that poster in one of the podcasts. So
I've been wanting to rewatch it recently, so like hearing about this earlier this week, I'm like, oh, perfect. I'll just wait till like it's in IMAX then.
Yeah, yeah. Hopefully for me, I live in South Texas. Hopefully it's not like only in Dallas or only in Houston. It needs to be like a little closer to me, San Antonio, Austin, hopefully. So, yeah, that's all I got for Star Wars news. Did you have anything that you wanted to talk about Star Wars related?
I'm trying to think. I've just been like, I don't know how much. For me, Star Wars, like oddly enough, like the movies are not really the most important thing for me. I just love like the expanded stuff. So I've been reading. I just recently got. I haven't read it yet. I just got a Shadow of the Sith, which a lot of people are saying is like a really dope ass book. Have you read it by any chance? Or
I haven't read it. I do know some plot points. I do know that it's like kind of like a companion piece to the Rise of Skywalker,
that
and fills out like a lot of holes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But I haven't read. I'm still catching up on some of like the High Republic stuff, which I love. I love when Star Wars does a thing where it kind of goes away from the Skywalkers and kind of just does its own thing and just lets you see like other aspects. Because like when you think of like the Star Wars timeline, like all the stuff we see like movie wise is like in the course of like 40 years or so, and then like Star Wars, I mean, from the video games and the books and everything's like so much more than that. So I just love the, like I mentioned earlier, the possibilities and like all the different stuff that can go on in that universe. So I've just been catching up on High Republic stuff. I haven't gotten to Shadow of the Sith yet, but I always find it funny how, because I think the same thing happened with Snoke, where like they don't really explain a lot of stuff in the movies on purpose to kind of just have some stuff like, well, we'll wrap that up in a show or in a book or something, like kind of thing. So I'm a big fan of like the expanded stuff beyond just the movies. So that's all I got to say.
All right. And Andrew, thank you so much for joining us for this podcast, finally. And tell the people where they can find you.
Again, you can find me on podcast services everywhere. Duo Sense Podcast. That's primarily a video game podcast where we talk about gaming news from that week, what we were playing, and just kind of stuff like that. I also have a Star Wars podcast, which we're admitting a hiatus until Andor starts again, called My Star Wars Show. It's very basic. It's mostly you can find it on YouTube. And what was the other thing? Oh, of course, and I also write. I'm a staff writer for Geek News Now, which David, my editor-in-chief, David Gramillion, and we I mostly write about video games or Star Wars. Those are like my two main passions. So I think that's pretty much it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much to everyone listening, watching us on YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, and Facebook. And of course, you can find us on Instagram at Star Wars Stuff Podcast, Twitter at Stuff Pod. We're on TikTok. You can email us at starwarsstuffpodcast@gmail.com. Also, you can find our list of great hosts that we have on the website, starwarsstuffpodcast@gmail.com, or actually stuffpodcastnetwork.com. And that's pretty much it. Thank you, everyone, for listening, watching, wherever you are. And may the Force be with you.
Always.
Pew, pew.